Hey, beautiful people. Welcome to Organizing an ADHD Brain, the podcast for anyone who's ready to ditch the shame and get organized in a way that actually works with their brain. I'm Megs, a professional organizing coach, organizing an ADHD brain owner, and recovering clutter human. While I work primarily with women, this space is for anyone who wants practical tools, mindset shifts, and a new way to look at time, stuff, and self-worth. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, scattered, or stuck in a cycle of starting and stopping, you're not alone. And you're in the right place. Let's build a life that feels calm, doable, and aligned, one mindful move at a time. Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of Organizing the ADHD Brain. We have 1 week until we close on our house and we start our trek across the United States to get to the East Coast. We're moving to Massachusetts. We are so excited and we are terrified. And there are so many emotions that go into this. And I was thinking about it yesterday and how when people talk about something being hard, you don't naturally start to think about what does hard mean? Hard means that you feel so uncomfortable, you want to run away as fast as possible. But when something is already in motion, there's nowhere to go but to sit with the uncomfortable, to sit with the feelings that come along with the uncomfortable. There's excitement, there's sadness, there's nervousness, there's the unknown, the feeling of just really not knowing what's next. Our routine is out the window. Nothing has a place in our home anymore, especially as we let things go. Not only do I not know where to find things, but my husband doesn't know where to find things, and we're losing our minds just a little bit. Everything we do plan on taking with us, we put into our front room, the office that you may have seen in a video before. It does not look like that anymore. And we are slowly letting go. We are emptying out cabinets one by one. And I'm so proud of all of the work I have done to get to where I am right now, because we're able to make some really good conscious decisions on getting things out of our house because we've been doing this for so long. It's not something that we're starting from scratch just because we're moving. It's something we've been doing for years. I did get complimented this last weekend on how organized my garage sale was. I was very proud of it. But part of it too is because we had so little still to leave out there. And in fact, our garage sale was really the stuff that we would have brought with us in the event that we didn't try to sell everything at the end here. Let's go into talking about this episode. I recorded this way back in March. My friend Ron and I met because he had been doing some research about ADHD, found my podcast, and included some information I had shared on his website. I was so flattered. Him and I started chatting. I was interviewed on his podcast, and I invited him to be on mine as well. I love his story. What's really neat about him is, first of all, he works full-time in a factory, but then he decided that he wanted to start a podcast, and it's called Don't Mind Me, I'm Different. And he's also working on becoming a coach. He's a pro-social coach, so he helps people with ADHD become more social. He also talks a lot about depression and how that can affect us on a regular basis. So I'm really excited to introduce you to him. He is the type of person that loves to find the positive in people and is just really interested in having conversations. And the way that he describes in the podcast today, kid-like conversations where we just naturally ask questions that people want to know, that we've forgotten how to ask those questions. I'm so excited to introduce you to him. So without further ado, here's my interview with Ron. Ron, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Megan, I'm thrilled and honored to be on here. I definitely am flattered and appreciate that.
Heck yeah. I'm so excited to chat with you a little bit about your journey, talk to you about your podcast, and maybe dive into a little bit of how depression affects us with ADHD and at least some of our experiences. So Tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you discover you had ADHD?
Yeah, it was for me, I didn't know that I had it until about 2.5 years ago. And people had kept telling me that I needed to slow down my whole life. And I just thought they didn't know what they were talking about. I couldn't sit still and I didn't know why. And I just thought that was like normal. So what ended up happening was I got to the point where I was getting written up for safety violations at my job. One, I had like almost crushed my hand with a power lift, one of those power lift jacks, because somebody had said my name while I was moving that, I was trying to walk it off. I'm fine. I ended up having to say because nothing had seriously happened, but it became an incident. And then I ended up dropping two totes, and it could have been a lot more serious. They're like huge totes, like 300-gallon totes. Luckily, I had a person in my life who was like, you need to talk to your like primary care about this and schedule an appointment. And I was like, you know what? I might lose my job. Like, this is something that I need to look at. Even in that session with my primary care, she didn't really want to point towards ADHD. And at that time, I thought there was a difference between ADD and ADHD. I was very confused. And she was like, you know what? Here's a list of psychologists. And it was like a huge list of different types. And I had to figure out by my own research who to call and who to set up. And I was like, at that point, I need the help right now. I was pretty sure I had ADHD. I finally was able to see my therapist and confirm that. And those sessions in the beginning were very eye-opening, but also very like when he said to slow down and do nothing, that was like a knee-jerk reaction for me. I was like, that's not something I want to do. But I've been able to practice that in my life, and it has really helped me to give me space and be okay with where I'm at and with things not happening the way I would like them to. So
I really like the way that you described that. And before we started recording, we talked a little bit about that. I was sharing how yesterday I just felt so dysregulated, and all of these things that I normally go to practice mindfulness or to get myself back into my conscious brain instead of going down this rabbit hole of doom, they weren't working because I was just so focused on what was going wrong. And it is this constant practice. And the more you do it, the more you get familiar with that practice, the more you know that it is in your back pocket. And even if you don't want to do it in real time, you seek it out anyway because it's going to support you.
Yeah, 100%. Some days where I'm like, do I even have this? Like, I'm so I'm so calm and patient, but it's like days like today where we were talking about, I just want to burn everything down that I've worked so hard because it's not where I thought it would be or where I imagined it could be, even though I've never done something like that before. So it's like a window inside the mind of what it's like to have ADHD. Like normal people don't just decide to light things on fire like that they worked on. They're like, let's give it some more time.
Honestly, it makes me feel a little bit better knowing that other people are feeling that way too, because you don't show up the same every day. You show up with who you are that day, right? Like we're one big chemistry experiment, as one of my friends would say.
Yeah.
And every day we show up a little bit different in the world that we live in and the job that we have to go to, the things that we have to take care of. And we don't do well with consistency. Where do we find the continuity? Where are we able to continue to come back to showing up? That's really powerful that you've been able to start this podcast and continue putting out shows. And you're past your 7th episode.
Yeah, I actually just put out episode 16 yesterday. It's called The Miracle Drug, How Exercise and Diet Really Help to Regulate Your ADHD. It's one of the top things that you can do. I've tried it in my life. Anything that I put out on my podcast, I've done the research on that. I'm not just putting it out there because, wow, this looks like something cool that I should put out there. I'm doing this to help other people with the ADHD. And I actually have somebody at my work he said that he tells me like the voice that you have, you put terms on the things that I feel. And it's that kind of validation that helps me just a little bit to, it's not about helping thousands of people. It's about really helping like in depth that one person.
Yeah. When you're putting out podcast episodes and managing, because you work full time during the week as well, and then also building something on the side, how do you keep yourself organized? And what are some of the mindfulness practices that help you?
Yeah. The biggest thing that really helps me is a routine. like getting up and doing like the same thing. And actually, it starts out at night because I went from watching TV until 2 o'clock in the morning after I got off work. Now I don't do that typically during the week. Usually, maybe I might have one day in the week where I watch one show, but then it gets me to this place where I'm going to bed without watching TV, without like those blue screens. And then I get up and usually I go for a walk. I try to incorporate mindfulness into that walk, like just paying attention to the walk, not thinking about what I got to do in the rest of the day. It's like even the steps, especially the birds. Like I love being curious about the birds that are walking around. And the fact that I'm getting sunshine, which is huge for depression in the morning, because I am not a morning person, or at least I didn't think I was. But now that I've been doing this routine and like eating breakfast and then getting exercise, because when you get exercise, you actually have 10% to 15% more ability after you get the exercise for about 2 to 4 hours. So you're more inclined to learn and absorb that information and focus on it. So I found that my optimal time is between 8 and 11. That 3 hour spot is where I can get the most done, where I'm the most productive. That's when I usually try to focus on the things that I would like to do in the day. And then I go to work and I usually try to take a break and do a formal practice of mindfulness. It could be really anything from there's like a loving gratitude meditation. And I usually have it like sprinkled throughout the day, like little reminders, like with stickers, especially with breathing to ground my practice in the reality. It was like, I'm living a good life. Like I may not like really enjoy exactly where I'm at, but I'm able to do things within my job that make it enjoyable, like putting stickers in random spots to remind me and being curious to see if those stickers will actually stay there.
That's really cool because not only are you doing that for yourself, but you're spreading happiness in other ways because other people are going to see that. Although, like, I
Yeah.
know that sometimes if someone tells me to smile on the wrong day, I'm like, nope, But I think it's so beautiful that you're able to do that. That's so cool that you found that works for you.
Thank you for asking that question. I found like even if I don't help anybody, but I'm focusing on myself. So you take like the other side, the depression, and it's I'm going to be depressed. I'm not going to do the things that I want to do. I'm going to be behind and no one's going to know why. It steals your time. It steals your joy. It's a thief. But on the flip side of that, if I'm mindful, like I come in and all the people around me are going to have a different experience with who I am that day just by
Yeah.
trying to be more mindful or noticing somebody's strength that they're using in that day. It's called strength spotting. So I try to compliment somebody on what they're doing if they're being curious. Like for you, you're having perseverance and creativity and you're really showing that and it's needed. So those are the things that I'm really trying to incorporate in my life. It doesn't always come out that way, but it's like when I'm feeling down, it's like I know who I can be
Yeah.
and I'm trying to get back to that place better, faster.
It's so cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, I really love it because I think there's so many people out there that are struggling with depression and struggling with these negative thoughts that they have about themselves that it doesn't feel there's this other side of it. But I've struggled with depression a lot during high school, college, in and out of it throughout adulthood. And it's been a struggle. And I know you've
Yeah.
been vocal about it on your podcast too, which I love because I think the more that we talk about it, the more we can make it
Yeah.
real. It's a real thing that so many people struggle with. And if we talk about it a little bit more, we can help one another get out of it and figure out what is
Definitely.
beyond the depression and what that looks like. So, can you share with us a little bit about your journey?
I didn't realize just how depressed I really was because, like, a lot of people with depression mask it and deny it. Oh, I'm not depressed because that's weak or whatever that is. But since I've been doing mindfulness, it opens up that observation of it's okay to be depressed. It's okay. I'm not going to fight this
Yeah.
because the more I fight it, the worse it's going to get. Sometimes I just got to ride that wave and be curious about, okay, what is this telling me about who I am?
Mhm.
In the beginning, talking about depression on my podcast, but it was difficult because it's depressing because
And
it's like,
vulnerable.
yeah, for me, I love to talk about depression when it's happening because that is like one of the best things I can do for myself is to talk about it and hear others, especially when others are bringing up their own depression, because I'm like, yeah, that this opened the door that wasn't there. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's crazy because like most people, like for you, it's, I see you all the time and you're great and you're full of joy and got great humor. And it's like, how can this person be depressed? And
Yeah.
it's for me, it's some days I'm on and I'm like the other day, I'm like learning Spanish and I'm like
Me
really
too.
awesome.
That's so cool. How long have you been learning? Sorry, we'll come back, but that's so neat.
Yeah, it's been 3 months, but like I went in and I was like pumped for it, and because I'm like learning this new stuff, and I want to practice it, and I've got some Spanish friends at amigas in mi trabajo,
Yeah.
so I'm like, but something could happen in my life that I didn't expect. Like all of a sudden, I'm like, my podcast isn't doing as great as I thought it would, or my dad asked me a question: "Is are you making any money with it?" Because that's his barometer of success.
Yeah.
And it couldn't. But it's really not about that at this point. But like that affects my whole mood moving
Yeah.
forward. And if I'm not able to like talk about that and express that, it just remains trapped up inside. It's nothing but dark. And it feels like you're in a trap.
Yeah. And it gets scary dark in our brains sometimes. And
Yeah.
especially with ADHD, we ruminate on so much. So we can get caught on one or two thoughts and then in our brains connect all of these neural pathways of like why all of that is true. Like we're looking for all the
Mhm.
evidence. One reason why I smile a lot is my mom was deaf and she is deaf. She's still deaf. She's not cured. But when she would meet new people, she always had a smile on her face. And we grow up by mimicking the people around us. So I mimicked her. So I learned how to smile. But what's interesting is that I smiled throughout depression, right? It's not that the
Mm.
smiling cured it, it's just the way that I masked it. And I don't think that I truly knew I was depressed at the time, too. So that's a really good point that you bring up. It's not like we're going around being like, I'm depressed. It's like, going around like this life
Yeah.
is really hard to live right now. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to put a smile on anyways because that's what other people are doing. I just really appreciate you sharing your perspective because it could look so different from person to person, but
Yeah.
understanding that there's ways out of it is really helpful, but it's a practice. It's a practice that can be difficult. And one thing I notice now is especially like when I go through a phase where maybe the podcast isn't doing what I wanted it to do and I start to talk down on myself, I can flip it. I can flip that script and I'm getting better at doing that. But
Yeah.
I notice that my brain wants to go back to the ways that I've always practiced. I've always practiced talking down to myself. And so when I start
Yeah.
to see something negative, my brain's, ooh, let's go down this journey because we're really good
I
at
know.
that. So it is about retraining yourself and creating new neural pathways to create the positivity in your life that you're looking for, the hope, the joyfulness, the
Yeah.
purpose on why you're here on this earth.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the other things that has really helped me is I go out and I get interviews in the street. And I ask them about ADHD, whether they have it or not. And like this week, it was about exercise and diet, whether they're getting what they're doing. I met a guy he actually works at a place for neurodivergent children to give them exercise as a group. And I was like, what are the odds of me running into this guy when I'm like for this podcast? And that's where I feel like I'm connected to who I'm supposed to be. But it's also like I'm developing a coaching program to help people like me that are introverted, that are doing ADHD and dealing with depression to be able to be more pro social in order to battle that depression and overcome that depression, because what it's done for me is helped me to be more confident. I don't feel trapped. And it's not about just talking to just anybody. It's about going deep quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about ADHD and depression and even suicide with people that I've just met. And
Wow.
one of the episodes was talking about what it's like to be Black and have ADHD.
Yeah.
And it was difficult for me. My mind's like, how can you even ask somebody that? But the response that I got from that, they were like, I'm so glad you're out here doing this. We need that. So it definitely was worth it. It is challenging. Like, I do get rejected, but it's like the ones that I do stop are worth the conversation. And I
Yeah.
was like I want to practice what I'm coaching. And that's one of the things that I do is like, I say, push yourself, push your limits. Because my social battery is like, at the end of the last session, like my social battery was just about dead. And I was still like, you know what? I'm going to still try to ask, because in my head, families probably won't want to do an interview. And when I asked, I was like, excuse me, can I ask you a quick question? And they were like, nope. So
Yeah.
I got rejected like 4 times before I finally got the last interview. And they were Jehovah Witnesses, and they looked like they were packing it up. And I was like, what's one more no? I'd already gotten enough, but I was like, they were one of the better interviews of the day. And if I didn't push through that, take my own medicine, like I wouldn't have had that experience. And it was a great experience.
That's so cool. I love that you're having these conversations, and especially the conversation about race is like with our world right now and the state of being that it is, we're scared to have the conversation. We're scared of
Yeah.
being wrong. We're scared of saying something that's going to offend someone else. But the truth is that the more curious we get about other people's experiences, the more we're going to be able to bring people together. We can start to
Yeah.
understand each other as humans and as people just trying to survive and thrive out here in this world. But it
Yeah.
takes truly understanding and asking more questions to get there, which is why what we're doing is so darn cool. It's so funny because it's so easy to be like, oh, there's another ADHD podcast, right? That's how I felt. I'm sure you've felt that way at some point. But the
Yeah.
truth is that there's no other Ron talking about ADHD, and
Yeah.
there's no other Megs talking about ADHD and organizing. Like, we bring our own humanity and our own thoughts and our own experiences to the podcast, which is why it's so cool that we're out here doing this, because I might not be for everyone, but there is someone out there for everyone. You will be able to find someone to work with who's going to support you in getting to your goals. And the
Yeah.
coaching program that you're developing, are people able to work with you now?
I'm actually working with one guy. It's still very early on, but he's been having very much a similar experience as me. One thing that he was telling me was he's trying to get a new house, and he went to this office and they were like, oh, you need an appointment to be in here. We can't just take walk-ins. And he started commenting on the environment and how it was really nice and well put together. She ended up giving him time at that point. So it opened up a whole conversation that wouldn't have been there because he was more open, not being like so self-centered and I didn't get my way. Well, okay, since I'm here, let me comment on this.
Mhm.
Or just like generally for me, it's not very hard. It's just, I think for us, it might be, it's just about getting more curious, like
Yeah.
that childlike curiosity. Like, why are you wearing shorts? Why did you decide to come out here today? Like kid questions that we've shut away
Yep.
or put away because we think that we're going to get a negative response. And we
Yeah.
might. One of the questions that I asked is, what was the best part of your day? And almost always gets a smile on that person's face because they have to think about it.
Yeah.
It gets them to stop and think. And that's what I like to bring out.
What I love about interviews and podcasts in general is that we're getting to know each other more than what most of us are doing with our families nowadays. I'll speak from my own experience, but
my husband and I told our families that we're going to be moving from Colorado back to Massachusetts.
Wow.
And initially, there was a lot of judgment and reaction, right away. What the hell are you doing? And my dad told me, I have some opinions. I've got some things I want to caution you on. And I stopped him. I was like, I love you respectfully. And if you would like to give me opinions and thoughts and things we should consider, I need you to know more about what we're doing first. And so I implore
Mm,
you to ask questions. If you would like to give us any opinions on what's happening, I need you to at least know the basis of it. So ask away, ask the questions you want to know. He asked me about 10 questions in a row. I shared everything with him because I'm an open book. I don't mind sharing the things. It's so important that people who want to know the answers, if they're asking the questions, I'm going to tell you the answer because that's
yeah.
important to me. And he goes, wow, I'm just glad that you're finally sharing all of this with me. And I'm like, okay, yes. And I just want to point out that I'm sharing with you because you're asking me the questions that you
Yeah.
want to know. And so
Yeah.
I'm answering. Sometimes this might be like an inner child thing. I shut down when I don't know if people want to know things about me. So I'm not going to share if you're not genuinely curious about something
Yeah.
that I'm doing, because that's probably, I don't want to bother you. That's the type of thing. But
I just wanted to say
yeah,
I am glad that you stood up for yourself there and created a much more positive conversation with your father because that is one of the things that is huge for building self-confidence, especially with
yeah,
HD, is like being able to know your boundaries
yeah.
and to set those in a healthy way. And that's awesome that you're doing that.
I'm learning and practicing. Where else? Where can we find your podcast?
Oh, you can find it on Apple. It's called Don't Mind Me, I'm Different. It's got 16 episodes and a trailer. And yeah, if you have any suggestions on what topics you'd like to hear moving forward, the next episode is going to be on women's history, actually,
Mm.
how ADHD shows up differently in women. And I've got a lot of fantastic interviews for that. Yeah,
Ron, you're doing some beautiful work out there. Keep going,
thank you.
because
You too.
all of the listeners here are going to come and fall in love with your podcast. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have an amazing day.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.
Okay, you might have noticed that we didn't talk fully about organizing in that conversation. But here's the thing. When you're organizing with ADHD and decluttering and making all these decisions, all of these things come into play. We work through so many emotions when we're letting go and when we're putting things in places and learning how to trust ourselves. It's important for us to listen to these conversations about having ADHD and what it's like for other people, because we start to see ourselves in these lived experiences, understanding ourselves a little bit differently because we see how someone has met themselves in a different way. Like Ron, when he discovered his depression and how important it was for him to be able to talk about it. It's important for us to be able to talk about our clutter, to be able to talk about our organizing in a way that makes sense for us, in a way that we can start to wrap our brains around making the difference that we need to make in our own lives. He also talks about routine and how it's important for him to have a routine that he follows in the morning that starts at night, the night before. How depression is a regular thing that he supports people with and has to be able to support himself with and just recognize what's real. And I loved our conversation about retraining our positive talk, the way we speak to ourselves, because that's where a lot of the work is done. So many of the people that I work with when I was working in people's homes, they were so mean to themselves, so unkind about the clutter that was taking up their lives because they were embarrassed. And it's almost like we feel like we need to put ourselves down so other people know that, hey, we're not proud of this either, right? We need you to know that we also feel like that's probably what you think, so I'm going to put myself down first. But that's not the case, guys. Like, we've got to be able to say, I'm working on this. This is something that I would like to change. I don't necessarily know how. It starts within. I'm going to post all of Ron's information in the show notes below. And then just another quick announcement for you. I'm not taking any more coaching clients right now. I do have a wait list on my website. So if you're interested in possibly being a one-on-one client come this fall, I'd love to have a chat with you. If you go to organizinganadhdbrain.com and click on ways to connect, you'll see so many different ways to work with me, either for free, in my community, or of course, one-on-one. And Right now, my community is also closed for the rest of the summer, and I'll reopen that in the fall as we continue to let go, organize, and build an amazing community where we support each other getting through these ridiculous emotions that are sometimes standing in our way. If you can think of it, wish me luck as we're about to trek across the country with my 2 girls, 4 animals, and a whole lot of hope for where we're going in the future. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I love being a part of your journey, and I hope you found something helpful to take with you. If you're ready to get support in organizing your ADHD life, I'd love to invite you to join my community. It's a space built just for you. And if you're curious about coaching, let's chat. I encourage you to book a free call just to see if it's the right fit. You can get on my calendar directly from the show notes below, and we can have a chat. A quick reminder, I am not a doctor or a medical professional. Everything I share is based on my own experience as well as my coaching expertise. So please consult your doctor for any medical or ADHD related concerns. Until next time, keep going. Right where you are is a great place to start.